What is up, you guys? Y'all, I have missed y'all so much. I know that sounds weird because I'm here every Wednesday, but I just miss hanging out in the lobby and playing games. But for those of you who do not know me, my name is Staci. Obviously, I lead these fine young singers in the front row. But I love this series. We're just going to dive right in. We're talking about vibes, which is all about emotions. If you know me, you know it to be factual that I really struggle with emotions. You've probably seen it before. You've probably seen me lose my temper a few times or two. Purple Tribe, no. Yeah, you know. I struggle with emotions hardcore. I cannot get a grip. But I love this series because I tend to lean in more to things that I struggle with. But Eric on week 1, he really got to me because he listed a few things. He said, find out which emotions trigger you, get to the root of it, and don't let it be the boss of you any longer. So he listed a few things. He listed things like anger, anxiety, loneliness, guilt, jealousy. And to be fully transparent with you, the two that I struggle with the most are jealousy and anger. And anger gets me in trouble more often than not. It is the one that I have the hardest time getting a grip of. And I know I am not the only one. Anybody else having problems with anger? Don't lie. Okay, yeah, I got some people that were brave enough to raise their hand. Actually, that's the point later. Here's the deal. How many of you have ever been in the car with someone who has had road rage? Yeah, a lot of you. There is a reason I do not have a Wellspring bumper sticker on the back of my car. Do you hear me? There is a reason I do not have that. Not because I'm a bad driver, but I am yelling at you if you are a bad driver. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just yelling if you're a bad driver. What about hallway rage? Have y'all had that? Okay, so when I was in school a long time ago, I was going to volleyball practice or class, and there would always be this friend group that would be smack dab in the middle of the hallway acting like they ain't got nowhere to go. And I'm like, hello, I'm trying to go. Move to the left or the right, people. If you are one of those people, don't do that anymore. But I know those are silly examples of anger, right? They're pretty silly. We'll get to more serious ones later. But we don't like to admit we're angry. In fact, when I asked you how many of you had some anger issues, I think 3 of you raised your hand. We don't like to admit that we have a temper. We don't like to admit that we have an anger problem. But a lot of us do. The way I know this is because we show it. We show it all the time that we have anger. Y'all, I am so nervous, and I never get nervous. Y'all ever get nervous when you speaking? Okay, here's the deal. We use little subwords about our anger. Probably because I deal with this the most. This is why I'm nervous. We use subwords about our anger to pretend that we're not angry. So we're not angry, we're just annoyed. Or we're not furious, we're just frustrated. Or have you ever heard this one? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed in you. Yeah, I know you've heard that one. So we're not angry that our friend borrowed our favorite dress and it's now a crop top. No, we're not angry. We're just annoyed that you don't know how to take care of stuff when you borrow it. Or we are not frustrated with that friend that knows everything about everything, and we can't tell them anything because they're never going to be right, or they're never going to be wrong, and you're never going to be right. Do y'all know people like that? Yeah, you're not furious about that. You're just frustrated. Or I'm not angry in the middle of house party when y'all are talking instead of worshiping. Not at all. I'm just disappointed. No, I'm really angry. Like, stop doing that. But here's the deal. We do not like to admit that we are angry. Did that hit too close to home? Too close? Yeah. Here's the deal with anger. It looks different for everyone. So for me, I view anger typically how I give it. I'm not proud of it, but it's how I view it. So I view anger as yelling, lashing out on people, losing my temper. How many people are master communicators with the silent treatment? We have any silent treatment people? Yeah. So you do the cold shoulder anger method. You will leave people on red. You will not text them back. You will withhold your emotions and your words because it gives you the control. Then we've got the passive aggressive anger people. And this one is really a big deal because of social media. So if you're mad at someone, you're going to go do that TikTok or that Snapchat story or that Instagram post, and you're going to talk about that person, but you're not going to say their name, but you know who it is. They know who it is. And probably everyone else knows who it is, right? Okay, first off, I want to tell you I have been guilty. I have also been guilty of that. We got to quit doing that. It's passive-aggressive anger. The other one that my Purple Tribe I know gets sick of me talking about is when you say things like, I don't care what that person thinks. Their opinion's irrelevant to me, especially if it's a solid relationship in your life. If it is someone like a parent or a really good friend and you get to the point where you're like, I don't care what they think, their opinion's irrelevant. No, you do care, and you probably should care because Jesus cares what that person thinks. And you hardening your heart towards someone is doing nothing with your anger. Absolutely nothing. I think the other more difficult thing with anger is sometimes it's okay to be angry. Sometimes we are angry and we have a reason to be. For example, when you see people mistreated, if you see people being unkind or unjust or unfair, that should make you angry. When you see racism or hatred toward any group of people, that should make you angry. I don't have to remind you because you're living it that this has been a really tough year, right? It's been a really tough year. And some parts of this year probably frustrated you to the point of anger. You have been angry, and I'm not here to lessen that. Jesus himself was angry when people were mistreated. Flipping furniture is type of anger. You should go read about it. Flipping furniture is type of anger. So anger is not always a bad thing if we know how to respond. And that's the key, if we know how to respond. Constructive anger will always move you towards positive action. Always. It'll always move you towards love. If you're confused about what the positive action is, if it's not love, it's not a positive action. And let me be perfectly clear here. Our posts, reposts, and cute little memes about our anger are doing nothing for positive action and love. And I hope that stepped on your toes as much as it did mine, because I'm guilty. That's doing nothing towards positive action and love. In fact, the only thing it's doing is spurring on anger and telling people you're angry. But you're not doing anything about it. You're just posting about it. The opposite of that constructive anger is destructive, where you're destroying relationships and friendships, and you are going to have a ton of regret and pain and hurt. And I don't think anybody in this room truly wants that. The way to have constructive anger is to speak the truth in love with the goal of restoration rather than destruction. We've got to learn how to speak in truth, but to do it to restore and not to destruct. We should not do it to hurt people, but to heal people. We don't need to be doing anything destructive. So how do we stop the destructive anger from controlling us? I think we all can agree now that anger is a pretty powerful emotion. So how do we stop? So we're going to look at the book of James, and a little backstory on James. It's actually my favorite book of the Bible. So how many of you have ever read the book of James? Cool. So James, if you are new to Christianity or you don't read the Bible a lot, I will tell you to start with the book of James, because he is very straightforward. He is very blunt. He is kind of tell it like it is. Start with the book of James, especially when you have some free time. But a little backstory. James was Jesus' brother. He actually did not follow Jesus when he was alive on this earth very well. It wasn't until after Jesus was crucified and brought back to life that James was finally convinced. And he starts writing a letter to primarily Jewish Christians. And he's got some things he wants to say. So he starts like this. This is James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? First, I love that he says who is understanding, because in our anger, we need a ton more understanding. Number one, we need more understanding to get to the root of why we are angry. And number two, we need more understanding for people that are angry. We need to stop telling people that they don't deserve to feel the way they feel. We've got to stop that. If someone is angry, we need more understanding. But we also need to understand the root of why it is making us so angry. And then he says, who is wise? So who is wise? Being wise and smart are two totally different things. You know people who are smart, who are born smart, who study to be smart. I am not one of those people. I have found that out doing virtual school with my 8-year-old. I need to go back to school. I struggle with basic fractions, y'all. So we know people that are born smart, and we know people that are wise. But wisdom is earned. It is gained through life lessons. So meaning, if you're a wise person, You know the actions have consequences. You look and see what has happened previously, what maybe have happened to others, and you take that wisdom and apply it to your now and your future. And we're going to get back to that wisdom in a minute because it has a lot to do with anger. But we're going to skip ahead to James chapter 4 because he has more questions. I'm telling you, he's very straightforward. He asks, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Basically, why are you fighting and arguing with people? So I know you probably have a long list. I'm fighting with my parents because they're setting unrealistic expectations right now for me. Or I'm fighting with my teachers because they're giving me 1,000,001 assignments on my virtual days, and it's not realistic. Or I'm fighting with my brothers and sisters because I'm home with them all the time now, it feels like, and they don't know how to stop being annoying. Or I am fighting with that friend because I'm only their friend when it's convenient for them. Or maybe I'm arguing because I disagree with someone's political beliefs or their mask-wearing policies. Or maybe I'm just arguing with people because there's no guy code or girl code anymore. Can we normalize that? Stop dating each other's boyfriends and girlfriends, and you will have life so much more simple. I mean it. But James stops really quick so he asks that question, and then he just goes on to another question because he is not buying it. He does not want to hear your excuses about why you're arguing with people. And he says this, don't they come from your desires that battle you? Aren't you fighting and arguing with people to an extent because of you? Maybe not all the time but to an extent, you need to take some responsibility for your anger. I love what he says next. You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it. So listen, so you fight and wage war to take away from them. You fight, he says. Don't they come at war within you? Don't miss that, because all Jesus is trying to say through James is stop blaming your anger on their character, on their behavior, on their mistakes, on their decisions. Because when you do that, you have no control over your anger. None. You need to start taking responsibility. So my question for you is this. What is your relationship with your anger? Does it control you, or do you control it? If I were to ask the people closest to you, if I were to ask your parents or your boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, coaches, teammates, if I were to ask them, do they control their anger, or does their anger control them? What would they honestly tell me? Because if it's controlling you in any of those relationships, it is controlling you way too much. Way too much. Jesus had every right to be angry when he didn't get his way. Every right. And do not miss this. Jesus surrendered his way when he could have easily fought for it. He could have easily fought. He could have easily been angry. He had every right to be. But he didn't. I'm going to circle back to wisdom because this is what he says. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving. It is gentle at all times, and it is willing to yield to others. That is what Jesus does. He is gentle at all times. He is peace-loving, and he yields to others. Guys, in our anger, that's what we should be doing. It's not easy, but that's what we should be doing. Following the example of Jesus is how we keep the anger from controlling us. And because of Jesus, anger really does not have to be the boss of us. It does not have to control us. And I have two things I want to leave you with because anger, obviously, I struggle with. If you know me, you have seen me lose it. In your anger, do not blow it, is the first thing I'm going to tell you. Y'all, personal story here. I really about blew it with one of my closest friends this past year. Really about blew it. And she did too. We both said things we didn't mean. Tensions were high. We had conversations over text messages. Never do that. Never have conversations over text messaging. And I'm thankful to say, honestly, that both of us love Jesus and we finally healed it this past week. But do not let anger get the best of you. Do not blow it. If you are angry, if you can sit there and say, if you're not being peace-loving, if you're not being gentle at all times, and if you're not willing to yield to others, sit at the feet of Jesus until you get there. Do not blow it. You don't want that for your friendships. You don't want that with your relationships. And you definitely don't want to carry that weight. The last thing I'm going to tell you about anger is what we justify, we buy. But what we no longer justify, God can heal. Meaning if we keep making excuses about our anger, we're just going to soak in that anger. That's it. We're going to keep destroying and destructing and tearing down, and we're going to sit in our anger. Stop the posting, stop the repost, start loving people, genuinely loving people. But if you bring to light your anger, God can heal it, and He will heal it. That's why I love tribe nights. It's my favorite. I love me some house party, but I love tribe nights. Because even when it's awkward and uncomfortable, and you might even be fighting with the people in your tribe, you should still be able to sit in a circle and get to the root of the issues. God can heal it, but you have to sit at the feet of Jesus. We're going to pray, and I hope y'all have a good discussion. I just want y'all to know, if there's any generation that can do it, if there's any group of people that can do it, it's y'all. I know that it is no surprise that the adults in this country right now, we need some help. So y'all be the example. Y'all be the peace lovers. Y'all be gentle, because you'll change everything when you are. Even us, even me. So God, I thank you for tonight. I just thank you for every heart in this room.